Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I am here with a wonderful dear colleague who is a specialist honoring the neurodivergent community. And we're just here to have some casual conversations. I'm hoping that some of these topics will resonate with you. Please feel free to comment, and it really helps the algorithm if you could like, subscribe, and share the videos, or even ask us questions on things that you would like us to talk about in the future. So here is my friend, my colleague. Please introduce yourself and your work.
Hi, my name is Akane Takijiri. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I mostly work with neurodivergent children and their parents, sometimes the entire family. Thank you so much, Buntarika. Thank you for having me here today.
Of course. I saw you posted, someone shared something on Facebook, and then I was like, who is this? Another person talking about neurodivergent stuff, but also you're Asian. I don't really get to see that. And so I was just curious about who you are. I attended your first talk, and it had so many good points. And I love that we could expand on it and help people understand why this topic is so important. And I think that you know, we don't actually have to talk about the Asian part of it. I think just us as being part of the community, it will help our community feel like it's important as well. One thing I was curious about is like you talked about you really have a lot of experience working with children and families. What's it like, or what are some experiences that you've noticed when working with younger, like kids who are neurodivergent and that experience?
Yes, um, I'm like I said, I'm starting a neurodivergent kids parents of neurodifferent kids support group um actually next week, a week from today. So the reason why I wanted to start that, eventually I want to make a subgroup categorized by age group.
Mm,
The reason why I think that the most vulnerable time is the toddlerhood and around the time kids are getting diagnosed. And I think that it's really important for us to talk about this when children are diagnosed with any kind of neurodevelopmental disorder.
mm,
There's a grief involved. It's a loss for parents because no parents, um, even with the number of diagnoses increasing every year, no parents conceive children thinking that I'm gonna have special needs kids.
mhm, mhm.
So when they find out, when they start noticing different behaviors in children, and when they take children to developmental pediatrician or clinical psychologist, there's a lot of grief there. There's a lot of things that parents have to let go of. For some children, maybe they may not be able to be in general education classroom,
Mm,
which most of parents don't plan.
right.
Some children may not be good at team sports.
Yeah.
So things like that, there's a lot of loss that come with children's diagnoses. And I think that toddlerhood is the most vulnerable time. And when it comes to grief, just like any other types of grief,
Mm,
parents go back and forth between denial to acceptance. They go back and forth in each stage, one step forward, two step backwards. And it's really, it's never too late or too early, but it's always good to get help. But that we'll talk about that too, right? That can be
right.
difficult.
So I have some questions because you talked about early, very early diagnosis, like toddlerhood. What are some things that parents need to look out for? Because I don't, I don't really work with, it's about half and half for me. Half of the autistic kids I work with, they were diagnosed early on. You could clearly see something that was developmentally different. And some of the kids, like they masked so high, they got away with certain things, and they didn't get diagnosed until it was so severe that something was happening. That's like we have to figure out what's going on. So how can you? What's something parents can look for when it's early to make like, that was something different, or I didn't notice that, but let me look back. Maybe it is something.
So I'd say, if you really want to get accurate information, I think someone like developmental pediatrician would be better a
Hmm.
candidate. But I know what I know, usually first signs is a lot of sensory overload.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. And of course, developmental delays.
Hmm. What's a
Mhm.
developmental delay? What's an example?
So you'll see, most of children that I actually used to be a developmental therapist,
Hmm.
the free service that regional center pays
Oh,
for.
wonderful.
Yeah, birth to 3-year-old regional center pays, and
Hmm.
it's free. But anyways, so what I saw was, mm, it's it's rare that they are delayed in gross motor skills, but you do see a lot of fine motor skills delay.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, and speech, sometimes for some children, it can be speech delay.
Hmm. Hmm.
Social emotional. So that all of that combined, so if you see like parents buy so many toys, the child has so many toys in the playroom, but then
Mhm.
they're not really playing with it.
Hmm.
So, you know, at that age, they have toys like what's that? Sequence toys,
Mhm.
cause and effect kind of toys, but those plays are hard for them.
Hmm.
No. Like even like some, if they have fine motor skills delay, maybe to push something, it may be hard for them.
Yes. And that's the really tricky part because a baby or a toddler cannot verbalize, oh, by the way, my fingers aren't strong enough to do this. As the adult, we have to really look like, what's actually going on here? Why isn't the kid playing with these things? Right?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. So really, there is a feeling behind every single behavior. When they tantrum, they're saying something.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But it's, a lot of parents, they don't know. We don't know.
Mhm.
We don't know. Professionals don't know a lot of things, right? And parents don't know. They're not equipped. They didn't plan on becoming a special needs parent.
Right, right.
So, um, if they, say, "Oh, he's just throwing a tantrum. He's like this is
Mm.
his personality," or
Mm.
basically this is a bad boy.
Right.
it's it's very saddening, but then they really don't know how to help themselves.
Right, because you're overwhelmed as a parent. You're like,
Exactly.
I thought I was doing everything right, and then there's maybe a little bit of shame to seek help too. So you kind of like stay in this bubble, and the problem might get worse where your child suffers a little bit more and you feel even more bad as a parent. The cycle keeps on growing. And so like I love how you said that we don't know everything because we don't. The science is still growing and the language is still changing. And so, like, being humble as a helper, it helps parents seek that help. I feel like we're not better than parents. And sometimes parents get that when someone says, this is how you need to parent your child. And, like,
Mm.
that doesn't help at all.
Right. I love everything
Worse.
you said, Buntarika. Yeah, you're right. It all goes back to being raw and vulnerable.
Mm, yeah. It's like we're human beings and we're lucky we get to help people, right? And at the same time, every time I help someone, I learn a little bit more. Every time you share and you help someone, I know you learn so much more. Like your language is so professional and spot on. Like I just want to go into your brain and see more of like the work that you've done as a developmental therapist. That sounds so fascinating to me. It sounds really neat. And like the language you have, now it makes me see you even more like you clearly have an expertise of like birth to 5 years old. Like that sounds like your wheelhouse. It sounds like you're very good at seeing developmentally what is kind of like the ballpark appropriate age growth and like there's something here, like we need to kind of explore, see what's going on. It sounds like that's your lens for sure.
Yeah, and really normalize with parents, really educate them about neurodiversity,
Hmm.
that it's okay. It's okay to be different.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm. How do you think parents in general, no, I'm going to change my question. So this is an interesting thing because I think you noted this. Yeah. So do we want to talk about this? Yes, we will. Okay, so so you mentioned, I'll give you a choice. So do you want to talk about in the public schooling or when parent and child are both neurodivergent?
Um, let's maybe we can start from public school and system in general, system in general, including regional center, including everything. And and then somehow the dots will connect. And I'll go back to the neurodivergent families as well, probably. Um, so we were talking about toddlerhood, right? And the diagnosis process.
Mhm.
And it's really difficult for most of parents to pay for everything, all the assessments and evaluation out of pocket.
Yes.
Who can do that? So then we have to involve insurance, school, regional center, which is government,
Mhm.
and for evaluation too, but also for education too, right? Like I
Mhm.
said, no parents plan on becoming having a neurodivergent family.
Mhm.
So then they're really vulnerable and dependent on uh, those systems, school, regional center,
Right.
professionals, right?
Mhm.
So then what I see is regional center um, tends to not catch well masked children.
Yes.
So they only basically diagnose with very typical kids with typical symptoms and severe symptoms.
Mhm.
Well, symptoms. Now I'm talking like regional center person. Signs, signs, right? And school too. I don't know. They never say that it's because of budget. I don't know how else and why else,
Mhm.
but they tend to, whether they recognize what they see as what they see, or whether they recognize what the parents are going through, and things that children are going through, feelings that children are feeling. But then unless it's like really severe and causing impairment in academic life, they don't help,
Right.
right? Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So then I guess the problems that I see is that in a way parents are having to learn to pathologize their own children,
Wow. That is very powerful.
right? Because that's what it is. Because in order This is so crazy. This is so how messed up the system is. But in order for us to get help, we have to prove, we have to say, look, my kid has so much problems.
Mhm, mhm. I'm gonna side comment. So I used to be, for my internship, I was school counselor, and that's what I saw. If a student had about C level, D level, 70%, 65% across the board, they were just getting by, they would not give them services. But if they were struggling at like 20% of the ability of like compared to all the student body, then they would give them support. I'm like, what are we doing here? We're not helping the kids. We could just
Yeah.
uplift a little more. So you're saying they're not struggling enough. They're not having a hard enough time. But these are D students, but they're like D is passing. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
can we not do that? Like, do you want D students all over the place? I
Mm-hmm.
don't. Yeah.
Yeah. And they pressure, when parents are not there, or when, other school counselor, caring school counselor, or when nobody's there, they pressure children too.
Mm.
So then, for example, when my son was in fourth grade, during the year of fourth grade, I received 85 emails from his homeroom teacher
For what?
for his behaviors and quote unquote maladaptive behaviors in her eyes, and
Wow.
um, concerns about his academic assignment completion, this and that. So then I said, okay, so I hear that you are frustrated, you're concerned. What can we do about this? I don't talk to her outside of IEP meeting. I only talk during IEP meeting, recorded,
When
right?
it's recorded. That makes.
Yes, everybody's there, principal's there.
Mhm.
So then when I say that, she says, no, no, no. Everybody, all the other teachers said, PE teachers, everybody says he's very polite, he's very respectful, he's doing just fine.
So you're being gaslit by this teacher?
That's not what you said in the
Mm-hmm.
emails.
Mm-hmm.
So she wants to email me, vent to me, complain, take frustration onto me.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I turn the table and when I ask for help, then he no longer has problems. So that's what I'm trying to say. Parents really have to prove that kids really have problems.
Because this, a lot of, I'm not going to name all teachers because there's some who get it, but traditionally, some educators think that it's a discipline problem. They think that it's a home discipline problem and kids need to be completely compliant at school to be a good student. Like, you know, compliance is not the best thing. You want kids to be free thinkers. You want them to challenge authority in a safe way, which is what school supposedly, I think, should be nurturing in our kids. Because if someone tells you to do something and you don't think it's the best thing, I would want my kids to be like, say no, like, or ask why, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of those kids.
Yeah. And then like going, it's the one of the things that, for some of the programs or the kids that I work with, it's that similar relationship that you've had with certain teachers. Again, not all teachers, but some teachers are so impactful that they will traumatize a student from learning because you know that you're the bad kid. You can't keep quiet. You're fidgeting, and so all the kids will look at you, and the teacher just allows that to happen instead of changing the dynamic, right? And so it starts very young, where the kid starts to feel that being different is bad instead of just being different, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I forgot to mention in the beginning, but I do work with quite large number of neurodivergent adult clients.
Mm.
And speaking of school trauma, it's no joke.
Yeah, yeah.
It's no joke. And it's really, My son's been very much traumatized, but then at least, I don't go with what school's saying, right?
Mm.
And
Is that part of what you do to help parents? Because sometimes they just trust everything the school says and
exactly,
does. Mm.
exactly, especially Asian parents,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yes,
They like
yes.
authority.
Hmm. Well, it's trusted, like, oh, you have the degree or you have the title. We
Mhm.
should trust you, right? But
Follow the king.
I'm not going there. Yes, it's a thing. So that's the thing about diagnosis that's so important too. I feel like because it's not as accessible, we have the traumatized adults who kind of like don't even know for sure if they have something because it was just a struggle. And now we
Mhm.
have collective trauma because of COVID and general wars, and, violence. Like a lot of people struggling with poverty, money. It's like everyone's feeling struggle, but maybe it's to a certain extreme where maybe you're neurodivergent and this could be another reason why things are even more of a struggle for you. But we don't always allow adults to believe it because, no, I'm an adult. I should know this stuff. It's like,
Mhm.
it's not an excuse, but they
Yeah,
think it is.
yeah. That's why, we're going the circles we're making a circle again, but that's why it goes back to being raw and vulnerable,
Hmm.
right? And really having flexible open mind. Then, you know we know that this child needs some kind of diagnosis in order to get services and help, and we can't pay for everything out of pocket. We need insurance to cover it. They need to get some kind of diagnosis, but then we don't need to let them become the diagnosis.
That is very powerful too, because it is stigmatizing. And I've been seeing this kind of thing in the back of my mind too. The DSM, it shows a traumatized person when you see the symptoms, right? You could still be autistic and not be the autistic who's traumatized, right?
Mhm.
So it's very different.
Yeah, I've been getting more and more of those too. Um, if you listen to, those, neurodiversity specialists like Dr. Gabor Mate, or some other, Dan Siegel, some other neurologists and psychiatrists and, mental health providers who are well versed in neurodiversity, they say that both autism and ADHD have strong link to prenatal and infant trauma, infancy trauma during infancy,
Mm,
which makes sense to me. I think young brains are easily affected. Trauma, trauma affects, changes the way brain is structured.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I would like to
So,
read more on that. I'm
mhm.
curious now.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And then I am getting more and more clients um who are neurodivergent and also carry traumas.
Yes. I've seen also like if you're neurodivergent, it's very common, almost always, that you're gonna have trauma too, because the world
Mhm.
doesn't support you. So I'll disclose I was born premature. I was born at 28 weeks, and I'm also neurodivergent. And so for me, there's these early biological prenatal reasons for why my brain probably not fully developed, right? And so like, but my whole body, it's not just um, what people are not sure what autism actually is. It's the whole body. Like you said, the sensory thing. If your brain is not fully developed and then it tries to play catch up your whole life, like it affects how the whole body processes stimulation, everything. Like you mentioned the whole fine motor thing. It's funny because I have a video about how I hold a pencil or a spoon. I hold it like this. I know this is not how you're supposed to hold it, but this is how I hold it. Like this is how I've always done it. And even in elementary school, the teacher was trying to fix it and trying to like put my hands around and like hold it like this is how you're supposed to like hold it. Like, nope, I'm gonna hold it like this forever. So and then some of my friends who are also neurodivergent, they can't button their clothes. You know, it's hard to hold a toothbrush to brush their teeth, like, or comb your hair. Like, it's so many different things that people don't see. If they see a picture of me, they're like, I don't believe that you're on the spectrum or whatever. And so, like, I don't want to prove it, you know, but there's a lot of things going on inside. And if you just read the materials or hear people's stories, it makes more sense, you know. And so, like you said, it's very frustrating that families have to prove some disability or need when it's already a struggle. Like, you want us to be a stereotype then, which is so unfair.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, I know. But Buntarika, if with the neurodiversity movement and also gender diversity movement, I think the whole point of those movements is to leave people be,
Mm,
let them be.
that would change so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that, same thing goes for neurodivergent folks. Really take it or leave it. They don't need to hang out with people who don't get it.
Mm. It's more affirming that way, you know. It's just we're stuck as helpers here, thinking about the systems. If people would leave them alone, we wouldn't have a problem. It's the systemic impact, though. That's the thing that we're trying to figure out. Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's okay. We're doing our best.
Mhm.
That's all we can do, right? And I
Yeah.
think schools or law enforcement, whatever it is, they're gonna have to change.
Oof, that's a big one.
They will. They will change. I always think about, it's a system.
Mhm.
It's a system. So family is a system, right? Think about diagnosis. Think about toddlerhood. When the child gets diagnosed, then the parents have to learn about neurodiversity,
Mhm.
neurodifferent mind. They will have to learn, um, they will have to adapt. They will have to learn how to be a parent of neurodivergent child, neurodifferent child, right? Um, some people are more resistant, but regardless of the pace, they do eventually, most of them change eventually.
Mhm.
It's because it's a system. So when something, it's all in a circle. So when one thing changes, then the others have to change too. It's the same thing, neurodiversity movement, gender diversity movement. When something changes, a society, a community is a system too, like a family. So when one group changes, then the others have to change too.
Mm. That's very hopeful and optimistic of you. Thank you for sharing that. I also think that because of our generations, you know, the younger generations who are more open-minded, because so here's the thing, like there's always this generational rift. We have paved the way for the younger generation to be more open. So like it's a wonderful thing to see. It's like more open-minded, more patient, more compassionate to see difference as just difference. And so when they're older, we will be able to see more of that as well. The circle does impact each other. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you and I are, in the lead.
Yeah, we're the aunties leading. Like, we got you. Don't worry. We'll take care of you, you know. Um, which is, I think, I want to wrap with that because it kind of comes from this lens of culture just for a little bit. You know, I think as Asian community members, we do have a more collective perspective of things, how we're all connected. I think that really helps the neurodiversity movement because there's no hierarchy. We're not better than people who are different, or we just feel maybe misunderstood. And we're here to try to help explain something that's hard to explain, you
Yes,
know?
yes. Yeah, Buntarika, maybe we'll have to set up another time with us with this specific theme, but I'm raising my neurodivergent kid here in the US, and my sister is raising her autistic son in Japan.
Mm.
And in Japan, that's how it was when I was growing up too. Teachers, there's no law equivalent to idea in Japan.
Oh, really?
There's something like ADA, but not idea.
Hmm.
So there's no, which means that there's no such thing as IEP,
Wow.
right? But then children still get help though. Teachers, they just meet them where, I mean, not all teachers, but it's like that here too, I guess. It's all
Yeah.
about who it is, right?
Mm.
So teachers who are empathic in nature.
Mm.
They meet the kids where they're at. They don't get paid, but like when I struggled a lot in elementary school, so teachers would stay after school, after the bell, and they would help me.
Mm.
So things like that, without paper, without signature, without IEP, but kids still get help. So, you're right. I still think that we do need IEP though. We do need idea. We do need laws that
Mm.
kids need the protection,
Yes,
legal
totally agree.
protection.
Mm.
But then it's also nice to have that sense of community.
Mhm. And we can freely talk about it if it's on paper and it's more part of the education system, right? Yeah, that changes a huge Asian shame related with just my child struggles. Like there's something wrong with me, something wrong with the family. Anyways, we're not talking about that this time. How about next time? Um, is there anything you would like to leave with the listeners and the viewers? How can people contact you for your parenting group or learn more about what your expertise is?
Yes. Let me see. Is it okay if I share it on the chat?
You could share in the chat and I'll just post it in my video description.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. Because my website, everything is quite long.
Oh,
And I'd say for the parents group, there was a change of location recently.
oh,
So please stay tuned. I will post new flyer with new correct address.
okay. So I'll link that. I'll link all of that and write it down in the description for you then. Mm.
Okay, thank you so much. My website and contact, do you want me to post it on the chat right now, or do you want me
Or
to?
you could say it out loud and then I'm gonna post it later.
Oh, I see. Okay. Hold on 1 second. In that case, you can still my face?
Yeah, you can see it.
Okay. It is akane-takijiri dot client secure me. Sorry, let me say it again. akane-takijiri dot client secure dot me.
Why is it so long?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Let,
Okay.
let me message it to you.
Okay, I'll post it later.
I was
That's
trying to make
lovely.
it secure.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, thank you so much for spending time with me today, Buntarika.
Oh, it was lovely. I've learned a lot about like very technical terms. I look forward to having more conversations with you.
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.